British exporters have called on the government to ease the post-Brexit trade frictions with the EU. We're going to read into this more from The Guardian, you guys. Let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is REGANELITE here with an article from The Guardian with the headline that British exporters have called on the government to ease the post-Brexit trade frictions with the EU. Though Johnson promised no non-trade barriers, firms say are struggling under compliance burden of customers and safety checks. Guys, as you guys pretty much the vast majority of you, unless you're living under a rock, know that things have gotten tougher ever since we officially left the European Union, the customs union, a few years now, and it's been getting tougher and tougher for businesses, and they need the red tape to be reduced. And once again, they're calling on the government to do something rather than just kind of sitting on their hands with this issue. It's hurting our economy, it's hurting our GDP, it's hurting small businesses, and if businesses need to make cuts and or jobs losses or even go out of business, it means that more people become unemployed, it means more businesses goes, it means less GDP, bad for the economy. It's all bad stuff, yeah, if this continues. We need to reduce the red tape and we need to make it easier for them. And it's just, again, you're just kind of sitting on the sidelines with this issue, not dealing with the fact that I know it's been a couple of years, and we knew that there were going to be, the warning signs were there at the time when we left the EU, that there were going to be issues with businesses. And now, obviously, larger businesses, they're going to be okay. They can afford to taking some of the costs for it because they're quite big. They've got money, most of them, and they're doing pretty well for themselves, shall we say, the vast majority of them at least, anyway. But small and medium businesses, guys, they don't have the resources, they don't have the numbers. They are the ones who have to cough up more money in order to pay for the checks, the paperwork, or hire more staff, or put in more time in themselves. That means them having to work even longer. Let's say like a manager or an extra employee who already works there have to put in more work. Now somebody might think, oh, well, that means they can earn more money. Well, that means they get less time at home as well. So I'm trying very hard to see where a positive for Brexit is, and this is not a positive. I can't see any positives yet for this. They're calling for help from the government, and the government are kind of just sitting on their hands with this, and it's just essentially not right in any way, shape or form. So almost 2/3 of British exporters have said selling to the EU has become harder in the past year, according to the British Chambers of Commerce, which is calling on the government to do more to soothe trade frictions with post-Brexit. 3 years on from Boris Johnson signing the Trade and Corporations Agreement, the TCA, with the EU, the small businesses which make up much of the BCC's membership are still struggling to negotiate trade barriers. So still, 3 years on, we're still 3 years on, guys. It's why are we still talking about this 3 years on? It's dragging. Because the Conservatives they know the damage it's going to cause. They know it. They're trying to kick the can down the road, and then whatever deal that Labour gets with the EU, they're going to say, look, they've made things worse for us. And it's like, well, you signed the original agreement. You're the ones who were behind it all, I'm just saying that they're going to try everything they can to spin this all on Labour when they come into power, saying everything is all Labour's fault. If things go wrong when Labour are in government, it's going to be all on them, because you didn't hear that from the Conservatives. Very important distinction to make. Not saying, by the way, that Labour are going to be good, because we will be holding them to the fire, I can assure you of that. So among those which export to the EU, 60% of respondents to the BCC's latest survey said it's become more difficult than a year ago. By comparison, 18% of exporters to non-EU companies reported that it's just gotten harder. So 18% of exporters to non-EU companies have reported it's gotten harder. So it's got even harder for the non-EU exporters. Just 14% of exporters agree with the TCA was helping them to grow their business, while 49% disagree. I wonder how many of those 14% are large and big businesses in comparison to the 49% that are probably small and medium businesses. I'm probably just throwing that out there, but maybe I'm right, maybe I'm wrong. You can disagree with me in the comments below there. The thing about Brexit is it's not just a static mechanism, said William Bain, the BCC head of trade policy. You're dealing with a growing compliance burden that started to come in increasingly over the past 12 months. It creates more paperwork. It creates more costs. The TCA was hailed as securing staff tariff-free exports to the EU, and Johnson said at the time there would be no non-tariff barriers. But in fact, exporters have been confronted with new customs and safety checks and increasingly divergent regulatory regimes. Exporters told the BBC about the ever-changing and onerous phytosanitary requirements on food exports, the nightmare paperwork and variations in applying custom rules. All this, guys, all this for what? Sovereignty? You know, take back control? We've lost control. Now, it couldn't be more obvious that we've lost control, but they won't admit that. They'll just say, oh, it's the Conservatives and the plan and the deal that they made. If we were in charge, we would have done a better deal. And it's just like, there's no way you can spin this, in my opinion. There's not a way where we can spin this where you could have made a Brexit deal that would have helped us, benefit us, before we left the EU. I'm trying to see a positive here. Like, maybe you'll find a thin line somewhere, but I'm not seeing that right now, guys. I really am not. The report also, excuse me, points to compliance with EU sanctions on Russian steel and the new carbon border adjustment mechanism, which already obliges steel exporters to the EU to detail their emissions and will eventually apply much more widely. The UK government this week announced plans to implement a similar scheme. The BCC is calling for better collaboration with the EU over future regulations so that businesses can be prepared for changes. Bain said this autumn has been a firefight exercise trying to get the UK companies in a position to feel comfortable after the regulations have come in. We need to get to a situation where they're ahead of the curve. Well, the problem is, guys, they can't get that ahead of the curve because they don't have clear answers from the government about where the direction we are going. And they're not very clear on that. And the other thing is as well, because of the political landscape, and the more dubious thing is the other thing as well, because there is so much anger and hatred, and the polls read it that people want the Conservative government gone. Businesses are kind of just sitting on their hands waiting for Labour to come in so that they will have a plan for them. That's kind of what most businesses are kind of thinking right now. The thought process from the majority of businesses is that they whatever the Conservatives say, they can't take them seriously. They've broken so many lies and promises as well over the past few years as well. Different ministers and that they're not trustworthy. There needs to be a sense of trust here from ministers and government, not just with businesses but with everyone. They have to have a certain degree of trust, and businesses don't trust this Conservative government. They've lost that trust. They've lost that confidence. They've been played about. Not just taxpayers' money being thrown away. These businesses, their money has been thrown away at the hands of the Conservatives because the Conservatives have not been clear about where we are going as a nation since we've left the EU. It's not been clear at all. The TCPP trade deal, like, that's not going to make the biggest difference. It's going to make a tiny fraction. There needs to be clearer guidance on where we are going. Businesses need clear and honesty from the government, which is something they do not have. They've lost that trust. And that needs to change. Now, when Labour come in, if they are going to be coming in at the next election, which is what is looked likely, they need to be open, they need to be honest, and they need to be truthful with businesses about the plan that they're going to bring ahead. And they've got a lot of work to do to build back the trust between businesses and government, because that has been broken. A lot of trust and a lot of honesty has been broken with this Conservative Party. And long may they stay out of power for a long time, because they need to learn that they have to earn the trust, not just of the British public, but with businesses as well, with world leaders, other governments, because that trust is not there anymore. What do you guys think? What do you guys think should be done? What more can we do? Or is it a case of there's nothing that can be done, we just need a general election and we need a new party in now? Is that really the only thing we can do at this point? Let me know what you guys honestly think in the comment section down below. Make sure you hit the like button, be greatly appreciated. Share this across social media and hit that bell notification icon so you'll be notified of when I upload another video. And if you want to financially support me, you can do so by buying me a coffee or joining me on Patreon. Thanks again for watching, and I hope to catch you all very, very soon.